The following clip is from the North to South Show, live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk SEC football everything. Now, we'd love to have you out for next show, but for now, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button, and enjoy this clip. Breaking down the Auburn and Georgia game upcoming this season. Now, the Georgia and Auburn game last season, we all know that it was an absolute blowout. If you watch the game, it was a hype game. If I'm checking my knowledge here, I'm checking, because this was a long time ago. Like, let's be honest, this was, October 3rd last season. I think I picked Auburn to win this game last year. It was because Georgia was coming off of the Arkansas game, which they didn't look that good in, and they're coming in with some new QB called Stetson Bennett, or named Stetson Bennett, sorry. And I just thought this offense was terrible. I was like, there's no way Georgia's going to be able to compete with this Auburn team, who had a pretty good first game against Kentucky. And I'll put my hand up, and I will say I was wrong in that game, because Georgia absolutely dominated Auburn on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. It was a complete nightmare of a performance by the Auburn Tigers. Like, they just could not get anything going. There was really no bright spots in that game for Auburn. And it wasn't really even a great game passing-wise for Stetson Bennett. It wasn't like he went out and had some amazing game. Georgia just dominated the line. They just dominated the line on both sides. The rushing game was really good, and they just got after Bo Nix, and it was just a complete nightmare. The game only finished up 27-6, but like, scoring 6 points now in college football means that you either didn't play good on defense at all, or you just went up against the best defense in the country. I'm sorry, I said you didn't have a good defense. I meant didn't have a good offensive performance at all. So the last time that Georgia has lost to Auburn was back in 2017. November 11th, when Georgia went into Auburn, like they are in this week 6 of college football. Georgia travels to Auburn, so there's always something funky that happens when Georgia does travel to Auburn. When any team travels to Auburn, you take Alabama, for example, lots of weird things happen at Jordan-Hare, so be on the lookout for that. But last time that Auburn beat Georgia, 2017, November the 11th, and then obviously Georgia's on a 4-game winning streak, even though it is only coming into the 2021 season. Georgia and Auburn did play one more time in that 2017 season. We look at the SEC championship, which obviously Georgia won, and then went on to the playoff, and then went on to the national championship. And I should just stop talking there for Georgia fans. But coming into this game, Auburn takes a trip to LSU the week before, which is going to be interesting, because I think that's a tight game. I talked about that earlier. I talked about that how many weeks ago? That would have been like last Wednesday or 2 Wednesdays ago. I talked about, or maybe it was 2 Mondays ago, something like that, when I talked about the LSU and Auburn game. So definitely check that out if you are an LSU or Auburn fan. And then Georgia comes in with a home game the week prior against Arkansas. So they get to be at home. They get to face, I don't want to say a weaker opponent. Don't sleep on the Hogs this year. But a game that Georgia is definitely expected to win. You're not going out and you're not playing your Florida game the week before. You're not playing your Clemson game the week before. So the schedule kind of shapes out better for Georgia. I wouldn't want to be playing in LSU the week before. I wouldn't want to be playing LSU the week prior, even if you're playing at home before, but it's just how the way the schedule shapes out. So what I do for these previews, what I do for these early previews, keys for both teams, overall thoughts, and then I do my final score prediction. So my keys for Georgia, I say see, this is the thing. When I talk about Alabama in games that I kind of know Alabama's going to be pretty decently favored in, and I feel like I'm kind of in that case for Georgia, the keys are just obvious stuff. So like my keys for this, keep Auburn guessing. I think Georgia could run a 50-50 pass run offense and be very, very successful. I think Auburn's secondary is one of the better ones in the SEC. It might even be one of the better ones in the country, a top 10 secondary in the country. That is going to be their strength, but keep them on their heels. You don't got to, JT doesn't have to go out and throw for 400 yards to be able to win this game. Balance the pass and the run, and I think Georgia will be just fine. Keep Tank Bigsby under 100 yards, and that will equal you a win. That will get you a guaranteed win, in my opinion. Tank Bigsby is going to be the main threat to this Georgia defense. Obviously, he's one of the better running backs in all the SEC. One of the best young players in all the SEC and college football, uprising. So keep him under 100 yards. He's the biggest threat on that Auburn team, and I think Georgia will be just fine. And then you have the best defensive line, in all the SEC, maybe even the country. You could argue that Georgia maybe is better than Clemson's. I think it's a pretty tough argument, but the argument is definitely there. And you're going against one of the weaker O-lines in the SEC, I believe, in Auburn. I believe Auburn has one of the weaker offensive lines in the SEC. Don't just win the trenches, but do what you did last year and just absolutely dominate them. And if we're talking on a scale of, do you want to win this game? I don't think Georgia has to absolutely dominate the line to be able to win. I think that they could win they could win in the trenches and come out with a win easily. But I think Georgia wants to come out here and prove that this is a statement game. This is a game that Georgia wants to come in and prove that they are one of the best teams in the country and go into a tougher environment in the SEC against a team like Auburn, who is a rival. Like, this is a rivalry game, and absolutely dominate them. It would look good, obviously, to the AP, to the college football playoff, all that fun stuff. So I think that would be Georgia's goal for this game, is dominate Auburn's offensive line and just dominate Auburn in general. My keys for Auburn in this game, kind of contradicting what I said for Georgia, their key. I said you can't rely on Tank. You got to be able to pass the ball, and that kind of feeds into my next key is you need 200 plus yards passing. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback at this point. Like, look, this is week 6. There's still tons to be told, not even just about Auburn and their quarterback position, but every position group for Auburn, every position group for Georgia, every position group for Georgia Southern, for Louisiana Lafayette, for Fresno State. There's questions that are going to be told by this point in week 6, but looking forward to a preview at this point, I can't call that. So that's why I do these early previews. It's all guessing, but there's still lots to be told when I do my actual week before the game predictions, my couple days before the game predictions. So again, these are just in the early preview, but I don't know who's going to be the quarterback for Auburn at this point in the season. I'm guessing you're going to see, I don't know if I want to say Bo Nix will be out at this point, but that's where I'm kind of leaning. I'm kind of leaning towards Davis or Finley being the quarterback at this point. I honestly believe that. So whoever QB1 is at the time will need 200 plus passing yards in this game with a receiver. I'm guessing Canyon's that guy still. He's still wide receiver 1 in my opinion for Auburn. 80 plus yards, at least 80 plus yards. You need one wide receiver because, look, Georgia's secondary, it's not weak in terms of comparing it to other secondaries in the SEC. They still have one of the better ones in the SEC, but it is the weak spot on this team, believe it or not. Their linebackers and their defensive line is the strength of this team, no questions about it. And so if you want to win this game, you got to be able to pick apart that secondary. So one wide receiver, whoever it may be, someone's got to take over and have at least 80 plus yards in this game. And then my last one, need 2 plus turnovers. Again, I said it, Auburn has one of the better secondaries in the country this season. Pick off JT Daniels a couple times, force some fumbles, do whatever it takes. You're not going to win this game, in my opinion, with a 0-0 turnover margin, with a 0 turnover margin, with a -1 turnover margin. You got to be in the plus for the turnover margin. You got to get that ball back into your offense's hands, and more importantly, take it away from Georgia if you want to make this game close. Take away scoring opportunities for Georgia. You got to have 2 plus turnovers in this game. My overall thoughts about this game, I honestly look at this, and yes, I think Georgia's the better team in this case, but then there's also that part of me that's like, it's going to Jordan Hare. It's not an easy place to play. Always weird things are happening. And honestly, I look at it, and I look at the position matchups and everything. I actually like the position matchups of this game. I like the matchups that you're going to get. I don't want to say they match up evenly, but I think they match up fairly in terms of this won't be a game that Auburn is just going to get completely run out of town against if it wasn't for that O-line one. Like, I look at Auburn's secondary against Georgia's wide receivers. I think that's going to be a great matchup. Again, I said it. Auburn's secondary is going to be really good this season. Georgia's wide receivers are going to be really good this season. I think Auburn's linebackers and their D-line is going to be really good going up against one of the better O-lines in the SEC this year. You look at Georgia's O-line. So I think Auburn defensively will pair up decently against Georgia offensively, but it's Georgia defensively comparing up to Auburn offensively that really scares me, and especially that D-line going up against the O-line. So what I just have here is if Auburn's O-line can hang with Georgia's D-line, I think that this will be a relatively close game. The only problem is that I said the word if. And do I feel confident right now in this current moment in time? Again, I'm just an outsider to the Auburn Tigers. I'm not a fan, so I can't make an educated call right now on how Auburn's O-line is going to be for this game. But my confidence level right now as an outsider is that I don't know if I can trust this Auburn O-line to hang with the Dogs. This isn't even a knock on Auburn. It's just the Dogs' D-line is that good this season. I truly believe that. So for that reason, I just feel like we're kind of going to have a same scenario as we did last year where Georgia goes out and dominates in the trenches and Auburn just can't move down the field. And I think even though Auburn's defense is going to be really good, I still think Georgia will be able to score a decent amount. So my final score is Georgia putting up 38 points in this game. Maybe even you could knock that a bit lower because I still think Auburn's defense is going to be good, but I'm going to stick with 38. Auburn putting up 17 in this game. That's more than 6 than they put up last year, but I think the home field advantage will help. I just think at this current point in time, Georgia is on another level for this season.